Hi guys, happy Monday. We are on chapter 20 with Alice. We're getting to the end. There's only 22 chapters. And remember, on Friday we left off with Alice meeting Millie's family. So that's where this chapter is starting. Alice felt a glow inside of her, like she'd swallowed a spoonful of sunshine. Even if this all goes wrong, she thought, at least I will have this. At least I will have a friend. She stepped forward, head back, shoulders squared, feeling braver than she ever had, ready to explain the plan that she and Millie had made. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Maximus's big hands grasped her shoulder. Wait, he said, I will gather the tribe. A few minutes later, 24 Yar, giant and hulking and covered in fur, were gathered in a circle. Maximus held a tall staff, the speaking stick, Millie had told her. Alice tried not to stare. She could feel their eyes on her, their gazes ranging from curious to distrustful to hostile. Fear twisted in her belly. They were all so very big and braided with the pity she felt for them. She knew what it was like to want to be invisible. She couldn't imagine, though, what it would be like if you had to hide and disguise yourself all the time because being seen meant danger or death. She looked at Millie, who nodded. She's my friend, Alice thought. I have to try. This is Alice the No-Fur, Maximus began. Will you hear her now? We will hear her, said the Yar. Alice took a deep breath and stepped forward. Then another, and when Maximus handed her the staff, she wrapped her hand around it and leaned forward, letting it take her weight. The Yar watched, barely making a sound. Each of their faces were grave and intent. My name is Alice Mayfair, Alice said. I'm a learner, a student at the school across the lake. I'm sorry I got you into trouble. But Millie and I think that we have a way to help. She paused, took another big breath of air, and squeezed the speaking stick really hard with both hands so that no one would see that she was trembling. The Yar were looking at her, examining her more carefully than even Felicia and her fancy lady friends at lunch ever had. But instead of looking to see whether she was dressed appropriately, whether her shoes were scuffed or her hair was tangled, they were looking to see if she was dangerous, if she had a gun, if she was going to hurt them. Alice felt another surge of sympathy as she thought of how lonely and afraid they must all be, just as the youngest one, Flory, she thought, raced forward and touched her hand. Flory, the little Yar's mother hissed and yanked her daughter backwards in agony of shame and fear. Flory giggled. She's all bare and nakedy, no fur. Flory, the Yar, was tugging at her daughter's ear with one hand and covering her own eyes in embarrassment, Alice thought, with the other. How did you find us? Old Aunt Yetta asked her in a cracked and screechy voice. You know how, growled Richard. It's that Millie, always having the curiosity, always asking questions about No-Furs, always singing and making noise. She made the word singing like it sounded like murdering of innocent kittens. It's not Millie's fault. When all the Yar flinched, Alice lowered her voice. Millie just wants to be who she is. It's not her fault she wanted to find people to be with, people who can appreciate her. She lifted her head and said, I think I know how to fix this, but I need Millie's help. I need her to come with me across the lake. For an endless minute, the tribe just stared at her. No, Septima said. She was shaking so hard that Alice could see her fur tremble. She pulled Millie back against her body and held her daughter tight. No, I won't have it. I won't risk her. She's my only cub, the only one I'll ever have, and I won't let her be hurt. She turned to the rest of the tribe, and her hair was disarranged. Her eyes were wild. We can go. We can go. We can go now. If we leave our things behind. If we're being fast and quiet, they might not even be able to catch us. Don't I have a choice in this? Millie slipped out of her mother's grasp. She snatched the speaking stick. I am Millie of the Yar. Can you hear from me? Would you hear from me? For a moment, the tribe just stared. We will hear, Maximus finally said, even though the littles were never allowed to speak at tribe meetings. Millie gave the speaking stick to Alice and turned to face both of her parents, hands out in appeal. If you raised me right, then I'll decide the right thing, and what I decide to do is help my tribe. There was silence. Alice held her breath. Finally, Maximus gave a single nod. We will go to the tunnel for now. We will hide. Do what you can, Alice, the Gopher, and Millie. He crouched down and could look straight in his daughter's eyes. I believe in you, he said. Millie nodded. Then she looked at Alice, indicating her fur. Should I be disguising myself? No, Alice said, and almost smiled, remembering the Experimental Center for Love and Learning's motto, the one spelled out on the website and on every piece of mail that was sent, where every child is special. Keep your fur. I want you to be just who you are. She stood straight up, shoulders back, hair slipped free from its braid, and let the yard look at her, examining her from top to bottom, her head to her tippy toes, and she explained what she had in mind. 2 hours later, Alice knocked at the entrance to Phil and Laurie's office. Before they could invite her in, before she could lose her nerve and run away, she pushed the door open and pulled Millie inside. Laurie's mouth dropped open as she stared at Millie, whose furry face and arms and legs were left bare by her blue dress. Phil's guitar fell to the ground with an unloving jangle. Alice couldn't help but be amused. They had said they celebrated difference, but when they saw someone who was actually genuinely not like them, they were just as scared as everyone else. As she told the story that she and Millie had put together on their paddle across the lake, Phil tugged at his beard and Laurie closed her mouth and pulled her reading glasses out of her needlepoint purse. Explain that all again, Laurie finally said. Start from the beginning. This is my cousin Millie, Alice began, feeling a prickle of unease as she wondered how much time they had until the rally began. She's got a genetic condition. Pielus lupus, Millie said. She and Alice had consulted an English to Latin dictionary and Alice's phone on their way to the office. Basically, it means I'm well, you can see for yourself. My goodness, Laurie murmured. Millie's parents were visiting Standish, Alice said. They were thinking about bringing Millie to look at the center after I told them about it. So far, she's just been homeschooled. My aunt and uncle tried public school and then private school, but you can guess how that went for her. Children can be so cruel, Millie murmured with an exaggerated expression of sorrow. Laurie made a cooing noise and Phil's face became stern. Alice could tell that even in the midst of everything, Millie was enjoying her chance to interact with the Gophers. Not just to meet them, she thought, but to perform for them. Not at the Experimental Center, Phil said. We don't tolerate intolerance. That's what I told Uncle Max and Aunt Septi, Alice said. They didn't want me to let Millie even come for a visit, but I told them how you guys were and how you made me feel and how great you were about the whole thing that happened to me. I said, this is a place where any kid can feel safe and happy and free to be herself. This was the longest speech Alice has made to anyone at the center, and she felt breathless when she was done. Phil clasped his hands against his heart, trapping his beard against his chest. Laurie's eyes were glistening. Alice, she said, I can't tell you how much it means to hear you say that and how much we value your faith in our community. We'll take good care of Millie. Don't worry about a thing. Alice and Millie nodded, and when Laurie and Phil weren't looking, Alice gave Millie a wink. One other thing, Alice said. On Halloween, Millie came trick-or-treating with me, and when we were in Standish, some kids in town saw her. They were staring and pointing, and I heard them say something about she looked like a Bigfoot, and how they would bring her friends to the old campsite tonight to look at the freak. Phil's face hardened and Laurie's lips thinned. Alice saw they looked at one another and exchanged a worried look. She knew they'd been contacted by the paper and guessed they must have heard or read about the rally that night. Alice, you should have made sure we knew about Millie before you went trick-or-treating with her, but we won't worry about it right now. For now, Laurie bent down to sweep Millie into a hug that squished Millie's face against Laurie's chest. Don't worry about anything. We will keep you safe. You really think this will work? Millie asked as she followed Alice towards Bunk Ladybug. We have to try, said Alice. We didn't know if it would last, but for now, her nervousness and self-consciousness had magically disappeared and left behind a sense of resolve and courage. When she opened the door, Raya was in the corner watching a 1988 Olympic fencing matches on her phone. Tally was in the bathroom and her replacement neti pot. Jessica was standing in front of the full-length three-way mirror she installed on the closet door, considering her outfit for the day. a short skirt crop top from all 3 different angles. "Hi, guys," said Alice. Raya put down her phone. Tally looked over her shoulder with her steaming neti pot in her hand. Even Jessica stopped primping. Alice realized that in almost 10 weeks of school, she couldn't remember a single time where she'd been the one to say hello to her bunkmates first. "Do you remember Millie?" The 3 of them looked at Alice's fur-covered friend. "You're still wearing your costume?" Tally said. "I don't think it's a costume," said Raya. Jessica sniffled and muttered something that sounded like freak. Alice glared at her. "Raya, you're right. Millie's fur wasn't a costume. She has a rare medical condition and doesn't like people staring at her." She paused to give Jessica a dirty look, or making her feel different because of things that aren't her fault. "Halloween's the only day of the year she even goes out in public. Only now," Alice continued. "Some people from the town saw her and they're chasing her and trying to take her picture." "Why do they want to do that?" asked Tally, reaching for her handkerchief. "To put her picture online, to embarrass her and try to make her feel like she doesn't matter." Jessica rolled her eyes. Millie gave Jessica a long, careful look and bared her teeth and gave a very soft hiss. Jessica flinched. "She needs our help. It's not her fault she got this." She stopped herself before she had the words fur and hair. It isn't catching and it isn't dangerous. She won't hurt anyone. She's my friend, my only friend." Alice closed her mouth. Raya was standing staring from the bathroom. Tally sniffled. Then she said, "Aren't you our friends too?" Alice blinked. She knew that Jessica hated her. She had assumed that everyone else in the 7th grade, possibly everyone at the center, did too, and that Raya and Tally only put up with her because they had to. "I guess." "We want to be your friends," Raya said, "but you don't seem to like us very much. You leave in the mornings and you don't tell anyone where you're going." Then she sneezed 3 times in a row. Millie looked alarmed. "I have allergies," Tally explained. "Dust, pollen, pet dander." "Why don't you just tell her that you're not allergic to her? That would probably take less time," Alice said. Jessica said, lifting her chin in the air. Millie turned towards Jessica. "Nah, I know what you are." Her voice was very soft, but Alice could hear the dislike inside, like the first inside the pocket of the fancy fur coat. She thought that Jessica heard it too, because again she flinched, then gave her hair a toss. "I'm out of here," she said. Rhea jumped up and stood in front of her. "No," Rhea said, "you're not. You owe Alice." "I owe Alice what?" said Jessica. "It's not my fault she actually thought normal kids would want to be friends with." There was a tiny pause. Alice saw Jessica's gaze slide towards Millie, who had her hands folded over her chest and whose fur seemed to be bristling. "With someone like her," she concluded. "Normal kids," Millie repeated. Jessica attempted another head toss, but this one was far less empathetic, and she bumped her hip on the corner of the bunk and almost tipped on her way out the door. In a flash, Ria was there, foil in her hand, standing between Jessica and freedom. Oh no, you don't," she said. "Oh yes, I do, freak," Jessica sneered. "Get out of my way or I'll tell Lori and Phil you've got a weapon in here." "She's allowed to have it. She's got special permission, which you would know if you didn't ignore us all the time." "Great," Jessica muttered, and now Alice was positive that her nemesis looked afraid. "I'm not helping her. I don't want any part of this." "Oh, you don't have anything to do? You don't have anything to do with this?" said Millie in a silky, somehow dangerous voice. She smiled in a way Alice had never seen her smile before, a grin that displayed all of her very white and sharp-looking teeth, then repeated a line that Alice had used. "Just be yourself," she said. So, next chapter is back on to Jeremy. So now that they're going to do this, let's see if this plan works. We have 2 more chapters to go. So remember to look in your email for some questions. Have a great day. Bye.